At 0900 on September 27, 1942, Lieutenant Colonel William Whaling stood at the edge of Henderson Field on Guadalcanal, watching four Marines carry a stretcher toward the aid station. 22 years old, third patrol this week, dead before they found the Japanese position. Three more stretchers followed. The jungle had swallowed a seven-man patrol that morning. Only four came back. The Japanese owned the jungle. 2 months into the Guadalcanal campaign, Marine patrols walked into ambushes they never saw coming. 17 patrols had been wiped out in 3 weeks. The Japanese moved through dense vegetation like ghosts. Marines trained for frontal assaults could not see an enemy soldier 10 feet away. Enemy snipers picked off officers. Machine gun nests stayed hidden until entire squads walked past, then opened fire from behind. Whaling knew this pattern would kill them all. The 1st Marine Division had lost 400 men to Japanese ambushes in September alone. Standard infantry tactics did not work in jungle warfare. Marines needed something different, something the Japanese did not expect. 2 days earlier, Whaling had been relieved of his command as executive officer of the 5th Marine Regiment. No combat failure, just personality conflicts with his commanding officer. Most officers in his position would have been shipped back to the United States. But Colonel Gerald Thomas, the Divisional Chief of Staff, knew Whaling's reputation. World War I veteran, Silver Star at San Miguel, expert marksman who competed in the 1924 Olympics. Most importantly, Whaling understood fieldcraft better than any officer in the division. Thomas kept him on Guadalcanal, told him to think about their jungle problem. Whaling spent 3 days watching patrols leave and counting how many returned. The mathematics were brutal. At this rate, the division would run out of infantrymen before the Japanese ran out of jungle. He needed men who could hunt the hunters, men who understood stalking, men who could read terrain and move silently, men who could kill without being seen. On September 29th, Whaling walked into General Alexander Vandegrift's command tent with a proposal. Organized a scout sniper unit, 100 volunteers, hand-picked from Marines with hunting backgrounds, outdoorsmen, skilled marksmen. Train them in reconnaissance and ambush tactics. Send them into the jungle in small teams to gather intelligence and eliminate Japanese positions before regular patrols advanced. Vandegrift approved immediately. The general had studied Lieutenant Colonel Robert Rogers and his Ranger tactics from the French and Indian War. Small, mobile units operating independently behind enemy lines. The idea fit perfectly with their desperate situation on Guadalcanal. Whaling had 1 week to find his men and start training. If you want to see how Whaling built the deadliest unit in the Pacific, please hit that like button. It helps us share these forgotten stories with more people. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Whaling. He started reading service records that night, looking for specific markers: expert rifle qualification, rural backgrounds, hunting experience. Disciplinary records that showed independence, not cowardice. Men who thought for themselves. The kind of Marines who got in trouble for questioning orders, but always completed the mission. By October 1st, Whaling had identified 43 candidates. He called them to a briefing at 0600 on October 2nd, told them the assignment was voluntary, told them the casualty rate for reconnaissance work ran above 50%, told them they would operate in teams of 2 or 3, sometimes for days behind Japanese lines. No backup, no extraction if things went wrong. 41 volunteered immediately. 2 walked away. Whaling looked at the men standing in front of him. Most were 20 years old or younger. Half had been in combat less than 2 months, but they had something the regular infantry did not. They wanted to hunt, and Whaling was about to teach them how to become the most feared unit the Japanese would face in the Pacific War. His training would create a template. 2 years later, another Marine officer would use Whaling's methods to build an even more notorious unit. That officer would add one unusual requirement to his recruitment process, a requirement that would shock the entire Marine Corps and create a legend that lasted 80 years. Whaling started training on October 3rd. No manuals existed for what he was building. The Marine Corps had disbanded its Scout Sniper program after World War I. Everything Whaling knew came from experience. 24 years in the Corps, jungle patrol in Nicaragua, French battlefields where he learned that invisible soldiers lived longer than brave ones. The first lesson was silence. Whaling took his volunteers into the jungle west of Henderson Field and told them to walk 100 yards without making noise. Every man failed. Equipment rattled. Boots cracked branches. Canteens clinked against rifles. The jungle amplified every sound. He made them do it again. Removed everything that made noise. Taped down metal parts. Wrapped cloth around canteen hooks. Walked in soft-soled boots instead of standard issue. After 3 days, half the men could move through dense vegetation without alerting Japanese positions 200 yards away. Marksmanship came next. Most Marines could hit targets at 300 yards on a rifle range, but rifle ranges did not have wind, or rain, or targets that shot back. Whaling taught them to estimate distance by terrain features, judge wind by watching vegetation, account for how humidity affected bullet trajectory. He made them fire from uncomfortable positions, uphill, downhill, lying in mud, crouched behind cover that barely concealed them. By October 10th, his best shooters could kill Japanese soldiers at 400 yards with iron sights. The hard part was teaching them to think differently. Regular Marine infantry worked in squads of 12 men, clear chain of command. Orders flowed down from officers. Initiative was discouraged. Whaling needed the opposite. Teams of 2 or 3 operating independently for days, making tactical decisions without asking permission. Soldiers who could adapt when plans failed. He trained them in map reading and terrain analysis, how to identify good ambush positions, how to sketch enemy fortifications, how to estimate troop strength from campfire smoke and foot traffic, skills that regular infantry never learned, because officers did that thinking for them. On October 13th, Whaling received orders from General Vandegrift. The division was planning an offensive across the Matanikaw River. Japanese forces had dug in on the western side. Machine gun nests covered every approach. Artillery positions sat hidden in jungle canopy. Regular patrols kept getting slaughtered trying to find them. Vandegrift wanted Whaling to take his partially trained unit and locate Japanese positions before the offensive started. Whaling picked 8 men, split them into 4 teams, gave each team a sector to scout, told them to avoid contact if possible, gather intelligence, and return. If they got pinned down, they were on their own. No rescue missions. The division could not afford to lose more men looking for lost scouts. The first team left at 0400 on October 14th. 2 Marines, both from Montana. Both grew up hunting elk in mountain forests. They moved west along the Matanikaw River for 3 hours, found a Japanese artillery position at 0715. 4 Type 92 howitzers hidden under camouflage netting. 60 soldiers. They sketched the position, counted ammunition crates, and returned by noon. The second team found a machine gun nest overlooking a river crossing. The third team mapped Japanese patrol routes. The fourth team ran into trouble. They were mapping a trail network when a Japanese patrol appeared. 5 soldiers, 50 yards away. The 2 Marines froze, waited for the patrol to pass. But one Japanese soldier stalked, looked directly at the position where the Marines hid in vegetation, raised his rifle. The Marine closest to him fired first. Single shot. The Japanese soldier dropped. His 4 companions scattered, started shouting. Within 30 seconds, whistles echoed through the jungle, enemy troops converging on the sound. The 2 Marines ran, headed east toward Marine lines. Japanese soldiers followed. The chase lasted 40 minutes. The Marines reached friendly positions with 11 enemy soldiers 200 yards behind them, but they brought back critical intelligence. Whaling now had detailed maps of Japanese positions along a 2-mile front, information that regular patrols had failed to gather in 2 months of trying, information that cost dozens of Marine lives. General Vandegrift looked at the maps on October 15th and immediately changed his offensive plan. Instead of a frontal assault, he would use the scout teams to guide flanking maneuvers around Japanese strongpoints. Whaling's unit had proven the concept worked. Now Vandegrift wanted more. He told Whaling to expand, find another 60 volunteers, form a full company, and prepare for the largest Marine offensive of the Guadalcanal campaign. The battle for the Matanikaw was coming. and Whaling's scout snipers would lead the way into the deadliest jungle fighting the Pacific War had seen. The Matanakaw offensive began at 0600 on October 6, 1942. Whaling scouts moved out 30 minutes before the main assault. Their mission was simple: infiltrate Japanese lines, locate command posts and artillery positions, eliminate officers and radio operators, create chaos before Marine infantry crossed the river. Whaling organized his scouts into a special task force, combined them with 3rd Battalion 2nd Marines. The unit was officially called the Composite Battalion. Everyone else called it the Whaling Group. They crossed the Matanakaw River 3 miles upstream from Japanese positions, moved through jungle so dense that visibility dropped to 20 feet. No trails, no maps, just compass bearings and intuition. By 0800, they had penetrated 2 miles behind Japanese lines without being detected. The first engagement happened at 0920. A Whaling Group scout team spotted a Japanese command post, tent with radio equipment, 6 officers studying maps, 15 soldiers providing security. The scouts waited until officers gathered for a briefing, then opened fire from 200 yards, killed 4 officers in the first volley. The remaining Japanese soldiers scattered into jungle, never found who shot them. 30 minutes later, another scout team eliminated a forward observer calling artillery strikes on Marine positions. Single shot from 300 yards. The observer dropped. Artillery fire stopped. Marine infantry advanced 600 yards before Japanese gunners realized their spotter was dead. By noon, Whaling Group had encircled Japanese positions west of the Matanakaw. Regular Marine battalions attacked from the east, while scouts cut off retreat routes. Japanese forces found themselves trapped between 2 forces. No escape, no reinforcements. The fighting lasted 4 days. Between October 6th and October 9th, approximately 750 Japanese soldiers died in the encirclement. The 4th Infantry Regiment effectively ceased to exist as a combat unit. Marine casualties were lighter than any previous offensive: 43 killed, 112 wounded. General Vandegrift credited the scout snipers with changing the tactical situation. Small teams gathering intelligence, eliminating key targets, disrupting command and control. The Japanese had not expected Marines to fight like this. Expected frontal assaults, not infiltration and ambush. Whaling's methods worked, but they came with a price. On October 8th, Whaling took shrapnel from a mortar round. Nothing critical, just enough to put him in a field hospital for observation. Infection set in 3 days later. By October 15th, fever forced evacuation to a hospital ship. He spent the next 4 months recovering, missed the rest of the Guadalcanal campaign, but his program survived. The 1st Marine Division formally established scout sniper platoons in each infantry regiment. Headquarters Company got a dedicated reconnaissance section. Training became standardized. Selection criteria formalized. Everything Whaling created from scratch in September became official Marine Corps doctrine by December. The division awarded him the Legion of Merit in February 1944. Citation read that he organized a scout sniper detachment and supervised training of selected groups in scouting, stalking, and ambush tactics. That his instruction and expert knowledge of jungle warfare contributed immeasurably to success achieved by Marine patrols. Whaling never returned to Guadalcanal. Took command of 1st Marine Regiment in Australia, led them at Cape Gloucester. Eventually commanded 29th Marines on Okinawa, where he earned the Navy Cross. Retired as a Major General in 1954. But his real legacy was not medals. It was a concept, a template for how Marines could fight differently. His program became the foundation for all Marine scout sniper operations. Through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, every conflict where Marines needed eyes in places regular infantry could not go. 2 years after Whaling created his program, another Marine officer read his after-action reports, studied his training methods, decided to build something even more aggressive, an elite platoon that would take Whaling's ideas and add one controversial twist. This officer did not want disciplined Marines. He wanted fighters. Troublemakers. Men who won brawls and ended up in the Brig. He was about to create the most legendary scout sniper unit of the Pacific War. At 0700 on January 15, 1944, First Lieutenant Frank Tucholsky walked through the Brig at Marine Corps Base Camp Tarawa in Hawaii. 29 years old, combat veteran of Guadalcanal and Tarawa, looking for the worst Marines in the 2nd Marine Division. He found them. 18 men locked in cells for fighting, assault charges, insubordination, destruction of property, the kind of disciplinary problems that got Marines dishonorably discharged. Tucholsky was not there to punish them. He was there to recruit them. 3 months earlier, Colonel James Risley had given Tucholsky an unusual order. Form an elite scout sniper platoon for the 6th Marine Regiment. Model it after British commandos. Train 40 men in reconnaissance and long-range killing. But do not recruit from regular infantry. Risley wanted something different. He wanted men who could not follow orders, men who thought for themselves, men who would survive behind enemy lines where rulebook tactics got you killed. Tucholsky understood the assignment. He had read William Whaling's after-action reports from Guadalcanal, studied how small teams of scouts disrupted Japanese operations. But Whaling had recruited hunters and outdoorsmen, disciplined men who happened to have fieldcraft skills. Tucholsky wanted the opposite. He wanted fighters. His selection criteria was simple. Find Marines who won fights and ended up in the Brig. Ignore the losers who went to the infirmary. He explained his logic to skeptical officers. When 2 Marines fight, 1 wins and 1 loses. The loser goes to sickbay. The winner goes to the Brig for assault. Standard Marine justice punished the wrong man. The winner proved he could handle himself, proved he would not quit when things got violent. That was the Marine Tucholsky wanted on his team. The Brig commander thought he was insane, told him these men were troublemakers, criminals, the worst discipline cases in the division. Tucholsky said that was exactly what he needed. Over 3 weeks, Tucholsky interviewed 47 Marines with disciplinary records, asked them why they fought, what they did before joining the Corps, whether they could kill a man silently with a knife. 23 volunteered. Another 17 came from regular infantry, Marines with expert marksman ratings who had proven themselves at Tarawa. By February 1st, Tucholsky had his 40 men, called them the Scout Sniper Platoon of the 6th Marine Regiment. The nickname came later, after they started stealing everything not bolted down on the big island of Hawaii. Training began in the jungle highlands near Hilo. Tucholsky used Whaling's methods as a foundation. Silent movement, long-range marksmanship, map reading. Then added hand-to-hand combat training, knife fighting, garrote techniques, how to kill sentries without making noise. British commando tactics adapted for Pacific jungle warfare. The platoon learned to live off the land, hunt wild boar, catch fish, identify edible plants. Survival skills for operating behind enemy lines where resupply was impossible. They trained with piano wire garrotes, learned how to roll the wire in glue and crushed glass. One Marine named Wild Bill Emmerich became infamous for rescuing wounded men from kill zones using nothing but a garrote and silence. Equipment was a problem. The Marine Corps issued them World War I-era Springfield rifles. Outdated rations. No proper camouflage. So they stole better gear, raided Army supply depots at night, took newer weapons, stole canned food and whiskey, even stole an Army captain's Jeep and repainted it marine green. If you want to see how these 40 thieves earned their nickname on Saipan, please hit that like button. Every like helps us share more forgotten stories. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to the thieves. The stealing became legendary. Other Marine units called them the 40 Thieves, not as an insult, as respect. These men operated outside normal military constraints, took what they needed to survive. Officers looked the other way because Tucholsky was building something unprecedented, a unit that could hunt Japanese soldiers in their own territory. By May 1944, the 40 Thieves were ready. Saipan was coming. 15 square miles of volcanic rock and jungle, 30,000 Japanese defenders. The first invasion of Japanese home territory. High Command expected 70% casualties in the first week. The thieves would go in first. Days before the main landing, their mission was simple: scout enemy positions, map defenses, kill officers, and survive long enough to guide the assault force through the bloodiest invasion of the Pacific War. At 0530 on June 15, 1944, Corporal Bill Knuppel crouched in a Higgins boat 300 yards off Saipan's western shore. 21 years old, member of the 40 Thieves, watching naval bombardment tear apart the beach ahead. The noise was unbelievable. 16-inch guns from battleships, 5-inch destroyer batteries, rockets from landing craft. The entire shoreline disappeared under smoke and fire. The Japanese were waiting anyway. The 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions hit the beach at 0840. 8,000 Marines in the first wave. Japanese artillery opened fire immediately. Mortars, machine guns, artillery zeroed on landing zones. Marines died before they left their boats. Bodies floated in surf. Wounded men drowned in 3 feet of water. The 40 Thieves landed in the 4th wave. Their mission was different from regular infantry. While line companies fought for the beaches, Tucholsky's platoon moved inland, looking for Japanese command posts, artillery positions, supply dumps, targets that regular Marines would not reach for days. By noon, the thieves had penetrated half a mile inland, found themselves in dense sugarcane fields where visibility dropped to 10 feet. Perfect terrain for ambush. Japanese soldiers hid everywhere, in caves, underground bunkers, spider holes covered with vegetation. The first silent kill happened at 1300 hours. 2 thieves were scouting a trail when they spotted a Japanese radio operator, alone, setting up antenna wire. They approached from behind. Piano wire garrote. The operator died without making a sound. They took his maps and radio codes, left his body hidden in sugarcane. 2 hours later, another team eliminated a 3-man observation post. Knives. No gunfire. Japanese officers never knew their forward observers were dead. Artillery fire became uncoordinated. Marines advanced through gaps in defensive fire. This was what Tucholsky had trained them for. Silent killing. Operating independently. Making tactical decisions without orders. The thieves moved through Japanese-controlled territory like ghosts. Regular infantry fought set-piece battles. The thieves hunted. On June 16th, Tucholsky led a patrol to scout Mount Tipo Palais, a volcanic peak in central Saipan. Intelligence reports said Japanese forces used the mountain as an observation post. Someone up there was calling artillery strikes on Marine positions. Tucholsky needed to find them. The patrol climbed through jungle so thick they used machetes, reached the base of Mount Tipo Palais at 0900. Found a trail leading up the slope. Fresh footprints, bicycle tracks. The Japanese were using bicycles to move supplies and troops down the mountain. Tucholsky positioned his best snipers along the trail. 5 men with Springfield rifles mounted with U-Nerdle scopes. Told them to wait for targets. By noon, Japanese soldiers started descending on bicycles. Officers, couriers, supply runners. They made easy targets. The thieves killed 14 men that afternoon. Never fired more than 1 shot per target. Never gave away their position. The Japanese response was predictable. They sent a patrol to find the snipers. 40 soldiers, moving uphill toward thief positions. Tucholsky pulled his men back before contact, melted into jungle. The Japanese patrol found nothing but empty firing positions and dead bodies. That night, Tucholsky received new orders. Division intelligence had located a Japanese ammunition depot near Garapan, Saipan's capital city. Command wanted the thieves to scout the depot and report on security, possibly destroy it if the opportunity presented itself. The mission was suicide. Garapan sat 2 miles behind Japanese lines. Thousands of enemy soldiers between Marine positions and the city. No support, no backup. If something went wrong, the thieves would be on their own. Tucholsky picked 8 men, best fighters in the platoon, told them they would leave at 0200 on June 17th, move through Japanese lines under darkness, scout the depot, return before dawn. He did not tell them about the intelligence report he had read that afternoon, the report that said Japanese commanders had ordered their troops to take no prisoners, that wounded Marines were being used as bait to ambush rescue parties, that the enemy was preparing for a final Banzai charge that would throw every available soldier at Marine lines. The thieves were walking into hell, and they would not come back the same men who left. The 8-man patrol left Marine lines at 0200 on June 17th. No moon. Complete darkness. They moved west through sugarcane fields toward Garapan. Every 50 yards they stopped, listened. The jungle was never silent on Saipan. Japanese patrols moved constantly. Artillery rumbled in the distance. Wounded men screamed in no man's land between the lines. By 0330, the thieves had covered a mile, crossed 2 Japanese patrol routes without being detected. Sergeant Bill Knuppel led the way, reading terrain by feel, stopping whenever he sensed movement ahead. The rest of the patrol followed in single file, 10-foot intervals. No talking, hand signals only. They reached the outskirts of Garapan at 0415. The city had been flattened by naval bombardment, buildings reduced to rubble, streets cratered, but infrastructure remained. The thieves could see Japanese soldiers moving through ruins, supply trucks, communication lines. This was still a functioning military base despite the destruction. The ammunition depot sat on the northern edge of town, 3 concrete bunkers surrounded by barbed wire, guards at each entrance. Tucholsky counted 16 soldiers visible, probably more inside. His orders were to scout and report, not engage. But he saw an opportunity. The bunkers had ventilation shafts, narrow openings in the concrete, large enough for a satchel charge. If they could place explosives without being detected, they could destroy the entire depot, eliminate tons of Japanese ammunition, cripple enemy artillery for days. He made the decision. 2 men would approach the nearest bunker, plant charges. The rest would provide covering fire if things went wrong. They would detonate at 0500, then run like hell back to Marine lines before Japanese forces realized what happened. Corporal Roscoe Mullins and Private Otto Hebel volunteered. Both had engineering experience. Both understood demolitions. They moved toward the bunker at 0430, crawled the last 100 yards. Took 20 minutes to reach the ventilation shaft. Japanese guards walked patrol routes 30 feet away. Mullins waited until a guard turned his back, then lifted the satchel charge to the ventilation opening, wedged it inside, set the timer for 15 minutes, pulled back slowly. They were 10 yards from the bunker when a guard spotted them. The Japanese soldier shouted, raised his rifle. Mullins fired first. The guard dropped, but his shout had alerted the entire depot. Whistles echoed through ruins. Soldiers poured out of buildings. The thieves opened fire from their position 200 yards away, covering Mullins and Hebel while they ran. The satchel charge detonated at 0457, 3 minutes early. The explosion tore through the bunker. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition inside ignited. Artillery shells, mortar rounds, small arms ammunition. The entire depot chain reacted. Explosions continued for 5 minutes. The sky turned orange. Debris rained down across Garapan. The thieves used the chaos to escape, ran east through sugarcane fields, while Japanese forces tried to contain fires and evacuate remaining ammunition. By 0600, they had crossed back into Marine lines. All 8 men, no casualties. They had destroyed the largest ammunition depot in northern Saipan. Division intelligence estimated the explosion eliminated 30% of Japanese artillery ammunition. Enemy fire dropped significantly over the next 2 days. Marine casualties decreased, the advance accelerated. But the mission had consequences. Japanese commanders realized Marine scout units were operating behind their lines. They increased patrols, set ambushes, started using wounded Marines as bait. Any Marine caught alone faced immediate execution. The rules of warfare on Saipan changed after Garapan. On June 19th, a thief patrol walked into an ambush near Mount Tipo Palais. 4 men, scouting a trail network. Japanese soldiers had positioned themselves in trees and underground positions, waited until the patrol was surrounded, then opened fire. The patrol leader was killed instantly. The other 3 fought their way out, wounded. 1 man took a bullet through the shoulder. Another had shrapnel in his leg. They made it back to Marine lines but brought terrible news. The Japanese had used 2 wounded Marines as bait, left them crying for help in an open clearing. When the thief patrol approached, the ambush triggered. The wounded Marines died in the crossfire. That night, the 40 thieves held an unofficial meeting. No officers present, just enlisted men. They voted unanimously. No thief would be taken alive. If wounded and unable to escape, other thieves would ensure a quick death rather than capture and torture. The war on Saipan had become personal. By June 23rd, the 40 thieves had been in continuous combat for 8 days. No rest, no rotation off the line. They operated in 12-hour shifts. Half the platoon scouting during daylight, the other half infiltrating Japanese positions at night. Sleep came in 2-hour intervals. Food was whatever they could steal or scavenge. Casualties mounted. The platoon had started with 40 men. By June 23rd, 32 remained combat effective. 3 were dead, 5 wounded badly enough for evacuation. The mathematics were simple. If combat continued at this rate, the platoon would cease to exist by July 1st. But they kept hunting. On June 24th, a 4-man team scouted Japanese positions in the Kagman Peninsula, found a battalion command post in a cave system, 20 officers, radio equipment, maps showing defensive positions across northern Saipan. The team could not assault the cave, too many guards, so they marked the position and called in artillery. Naval gunfire destroyed the cave at 1600 hours, direct hit with 14-inch shells. The entire command structure of a Japanese battalion disappeared in one strike. Enemy coordination collapsed. Marines advanced 300 yards that afternoon with minimal resistance. The next day brought the worst loss the thieves would suffer. Corporal Martin Dyer led a patrol into dense jungle near Mount Tapochau. 5 men. Mission was to scout Japanese artillery positions reported in the area. They found the artillery. 4 Type 92 guns positioned in a narrow ravine, camouflaged with vegetation, completely hidden from aerial reconnaissance. Dyer's patrol observed the position for 30 minutes, counted crew members, noted ammunition storage locations, then began withdrawal. They were 200 yards from the artillery position when Japanese infantry appeared from 3 directions. The ambush was perfect. Machine guns opened fire from elevated positions, rifles from ground level. The patrol was caught in the kill zone with no cover. Dyer ordered his men to scatter, run for Marine lines. He stayed behind with a Browning automatic rifle, provided covering fire while his team escaped. 3 men made it out. Dyer and 1 other Marine did not. The Marine who stayed with Dyer was found later, dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Dyer's body was never recovered. Japanese forces had overrun the position before Marines could retrieve remains. The patrol survivors reported that Dyer had killed at least 7 Japanese soldiers before his position was overwhelmed. For his actions, he was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross. Citation read that he sacrificed himself to ensure his patrol's survival. His leadership and courage were in keeping with the highest traditions of the Marine Corps. The thieves took Dyer's death hard. He had been popular, good leader, the kind of Marine who never asked anyone to do something he would not do himself. His loss reminded everyone that skill and training only delayed the inevitable on Saipan. Eventually, the numbers caught up. June 26th brought news that changed the tactical situation. Japanese forces were preparing for a massive Banzai charge. Intelligence estimated 3,000 soldiers would attack Marine positions in a suicidal assault. Command wanted the thieves to infiltrate Japanese assembly areas, locate officers, eliminate them before the attack began. Tucholsky received orders at 2200 on June 26th. The Banzai charge would likely happen within 48 hours. He had 1 night to disrupt Japanese preparations. His mission was to take 20 thieves deep behind enemy lines, find command posts, kill as many officers as possible, create chaos before the assault. It was the most dangerous mission the platoon had received. Japanese forces were consolidating, thousands of soldiers moving into attack positions. Security would be intense.
The thieves would be operating in an area saturated with enemy troops. Extraction would be nearly impossible if things went wrong. Tucholsky briefed his men at 2300, told them the odds, told them casualties would be high, asked for volunteers. All 20 men stepped forward, not because they were brave, because they understood what happened if they failed. The Banzai charge would hit Marine lines with overwhelming force. Thousands of men would die, unless someone disrupted Japanese preparations first. The thieves would go. They would hunt officers in the darkness, and they would probably not all come back. The 20 thieves moved out at midnight on June 27th. No moon, heavy cloud cover, perfect conditions for infiltration. They split into 5 teams of 4 men each. Each team had a designated sector. Each team knew they were on their own if contact occurred. Tucholsky led the center team, moved west through Japanese lines toward reported command post locations. By 0200, they had penetrated a mile into enemy territory, found Japanese soldiers everywhere, sleeping in foxholes, standing guard, moving supplies. Thousands of men preparing for the assault. The first officer died at 0230. Japanese captain studying maps by lamplight inside a captured American tent. Tucholsky's team approached within 50 yards. Single shot from a suppressed Springfield. The captain dropped forward onto his maps. Guards did not even hear the shot. Over the next 3 hours, the 5 thief teams eliminated 17 Japanese officers, majors, captains, lieutenants. Command structure for the Banzai charge. Each kill was silent. Each team extracted without detection. By 0530, all 20 thieves had returned to Marine lines. 0 casualties. The Banzai charge came at 0400 on July 7th. 3,000 Japanese soldiers, screaming, bayonets fixed. They hit Marine positions along a 2-mile front. The assault was ferocious. Hand-to-hand combat. Marines fought with rifles, pistols, knives, entrenching tools, anything that could kill. But the Japanese attack lacked coordination. Officers who should have directed the assault were dead. Units attacked without support. Communication broke down. What should have been an organized offensive became a chaotic charge. Marines held their positions. Artillery and machine gun fire cut down wave after wave of Japanese soldiers. By 0800, the Banzai charge had failed. The Japanese lost 2,500 men. The Marine line held. The battle for Saipan effectively ended that morning. Organized Japanese resistance collapsed. Remaining enemy forces retreated to caves and prepared for final stands. The 40 thieves had done their job. Their nighttime raids disrupted Japanese command, made the difference between a coordinated assault that might have broken through and a suicidal charge that accomplished nothing. The platoon finished the Saipan campaign with 27 men, 13 casualties over 21 days of combat, 4 dead, 9 wounded. The survivors returned to Hawaii in August. The platoon was disbanded in October. Men were distributed to regular infantry units. The Marine Corps decided specialized scout sniper platoons were too expensive in casualties, but their legacy lived. Frank Tucholsky received the Silver Star. His methods influenced Marine reconnaissance doctrine for the rest of the war. The concept of small teams operating independently behind enemy lines became standard practice. What William Whaling created on Guadalcanal, the 40 thieves perfected on Saipan. Modern Marine scout snipers trace their lineage directly to these men. Whaling's training methods, Tucholsky's selection criteria, the fieldcraft, the silent killing, the independence. Every Marine sniper who has served since 1942
learned from lessons written in jungle combat on Pacific Islands. The Scout Sniper military occupational specialty was retired in December 2023, after 81 years. But the legacy remains, in reconnaissance platoons, in tactics manuals, in stories passed down through generations of Marines who learned that sometimes the deadliest warriors are invisible. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor, hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day. Stories about Marines who saved lives with fieldcraft and courage. Real people, real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia? Our community stretches across the entire world. You're not just a viewer, you're part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for making sure Wild Bill Whaling and the 40 Thieves don't disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.